worry over the security situation across the country. They say the situation is affecting the growth of the transport sector and the country at large. The national president of the association, Yusuf Lawal Uthman, revealed that kidnappers have now formed the habit of hijacking trucks on Nigeria's highways. The activities of bandits, kidnappers and thieves have also made life miserable for drivers as they no longer have safe passage on the road. The association also mentioned that the bad state of these roads makes it easier for the criminals to attack them. According to him, he says, and I quote, "We've had many cases where drivers were kidnapped while on duty and some had their trucks hijacked at gunpoint along some of the major roads in the country. And this not only affects our business, they say, but the economy at large." That's what we'll be talking about now. With us in the studio is a public affairs analyst, Michael Adeleye. Thank you very much for joining us again on TVC Breakfast.
Good morning.
What are your thoughts? Earlier on, we were speaking about insecurity in the land and, narrowing it down to the state of our roads. What link are you also seeing into this whole matter at hand?
Thank you very much for having me this morning. I think the state of our roads at the moment, in the last 10 to 15 years, is becoming more deplorable. And there needs to be huge investments from both the subnational and the national government. And that's number one. Number two, when you talk about the maintenance of our roads as well, we're having lapses in there because there's one thing to invest usually on our roads, and there's another thing to be able to put measures in place to actually maintain those roads for a particular term or the extension of the roads. But what we're having at this point in time is putting the money in there, and at the end of the whole thing, it's been left by its own to its fate. So basically, the weather comes in and mess up the roads, the users also, and also the condition of the road users as well. So if we don't take care and look into all those issues for now, we're going to have a situation whereby all our roads in the country will become unmotorable. And this is going to be one of the reasons why we have all these kidnappers, banditry, and all this criminality perpetrating on this road, because vehicles can't really move according to how they should be able to move. Then also we talk about the lighting of the roads as well, street lights.
Right.
Majority of our roads in this country, there are no street lights. You have, after 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, it becomes very impassable sometimes because of no lights. Then also you have vehicles that have no proper roadworthiness. They have no brake lights, they have no rear light, they have no functionality vehicles on our roads. So all this catalyst contributes to the menace that we're having at the moment.
So many issues you've actually ruled out. But if you look at some contributing factors to the bad roads that we have, sometimes when people go out to protest against whatever policy the government is introducing into the country, some set up bonfires on the road and all of these.
Yeah.
They said they contribute to the bad roads that we experience. So talk to us about how citizens need to be also responsible in keeping the government's infrastructure.
Yeah, thank you. It's our responsibility. The governments provide these funds to build these roads, but it's our own responsibility as citizens to ensure that we maintain and keep those roads for our own usage, because it's our own property. But what you see these days is you see people driving on the roads, they eat all their remnants from the car, they just throw it on the roads. There are laws in place that should actually apprehend whoever messes up our roads, but nobody's doing anything about it. So people throw foods on the road, all sort of forms of materials on the roads, and you see when like we just mentioned now, when there are protests, people burn tires on their roads, and that messes up the roads. When tankers carrying or conveying petrol, diesel falls on the road, that also doesn't match with bitumen. When those spill on the road, it actually makes that road becomes more weak. And if no measure has been taken when that happens, then you find that deplorable, position of those roads. Yeah.
Yeah, and observers have called for you can use any phrase now, but, you know, the one that sticks out is the government should issue a state of emergency on the issue of insecurity, tackle it head on, multi-sectoral, multidimensional, and all of that. Regarding the state of the roads, people have also asked questions as to where are the good old highway patrol forces that we used to have, that we don't seem to have anymore, other than the regular police roadblocks that you see. And, you know, there are few, you know, according to, even if you travel, how many of them do you see? And how well are they poised to addressing the spate of kidnappings that are usually experienced on the highways and all of that? There's also the issue of FEMA, Road Management Agency, the Federal Road Management Agency, if they can get to work with these drivers and security forces again to, you know, address the bad state of the road. What do you have to say about these problems?
Well, in my opinion, I think there's an issue when we talk about federal roads and state roads. Okay. That's one of the basic problems that we're having at the moment. I mean, you have some roads in the country whereby they say you can't touch those roads because they're federal roads. So when that road goes wrong and the federal government are now attending to repair those roads, the state government can't touch it. Now, that state of the road becomes deplorable. And once that happens, who takes care of the roads? Now, the state roads as well, you have local government roads as well. Now, even the local roads that we have in the areas that we have in our communities, some of those, when they become so bad, if you want to volunteer as a business or as an individual to repair those roads, they will deter you from being able to take charge and repair those roads. So the law needs to be looked into and amend those laws. I mean, federal government roads should be able to be taken over by a state government to repair them. And if there's a way of compensating that state government, that should be in place. The local roads as well, the same thing. I mean, you can't put that responsibility of repairing of roads in the hands of the governments alone. You have civil societies, you have businesses, you have NGOs who wants to put their money in there and to actually make sure that those roads are passable. But the laws have been too strict for people to be able to say, right, I need to fix this road. So the law needs to be looked into in the first place so that anyone that thinks they can actually repair those roads could actually put in their money in there and repair those roads. So when we look into the law and fix those laws, then obviously it works in that perspective.
And sometimes you see government agencies, you know, fixing the roads, or you see whoever whoever's gotten the contract to fix the road is, you know, doing the road. Is there a way citizens can also make sure that the quality of infrastructure, the quality of the maintenance of the road or the building of the road is done well, as against what we'll see government of the day fixing the roads even before the government packs from office? You start to see the roads, you know, getting bad. So how do you think, you know, we need to also ensure quality content, you know, being given to the citizens in terms of road delivery?
Well, that has to come from the government, because I don't have an experience.
No, because government may not be able to monitor governments because it's just the same, you know, people within the government. I'm saying those who are professionals, you know, trying to see what they've done or what they are doing, so as to call the attention of the people to this thing they are giving us is not going to last long.
Yeah, that will be dependent. Depending on how, if you have the experience. If you're not a structural engineer, how do you have an experience of what quality of the roads that's going to be given by the government? So if we want to fix this and make sure that it works properly, what we need to do is, once a project is being given out to the public by the government, there should be a stakeholder in place. The community that is involved, the state that is involved, and the structural engineers, and everybody comes together to actually access the quality and the materials that they're going to have to use to fix those roads. But if that's not going to be put in place, how do we monitor this? It's going to be very difficult.
Another issue, again, is how these kidnappers even see. Of course, you've spoken about the absence of street lights and all those other factors that could be fueling, making our highways that are usually busy even at night, making our highways, a haven for kidnappers. But I just wonder, what else you're looking at in terms of, the larger picture as to what is fueling the insecurity that we see, the dimension, the disturbing proportions that we see now?
I read something over the week, and people were actually pointing fingers of blame to the military. The architecture is not being done properly, the military are not functioning properly. If you look at it, I mean, for my own research, the military has only about 10 to 20% in this whole issue. We need to go to the root cause of why we're having this banditry, this kidnapping. Look, the population of this country has been constituted by 70 to 80% of youth. Now, the question is, what do we have this youth doing? We have unemployment. I mean, most of our graduates they lack the skills that employers need. Now, there's a saying that goes, an idle hand is a devil's workshop. Now, banditry, kidnapping, and all this criminality that's been perpetrated by going around the country, the military has a little bit of intake in this. No matter how you invest into the military and the architecture, it's not going to solve the problem. We need to provide jobs for our youth, training, skill acquisition. If we don't have all those things in place, it's a social problem we're having in here. Social, economic problem. All this banditry that we see all around are being perpetrated by the youth. Okay? And if we don't fix them with good jobs, get them to get something to do, skill acquisition, we're still going to keep on saying this. Look, there's poverty in the land. Everybody has to feed. They need to pay their rent, they need to feed, they need to spend money on this and that. But where are they going to get this money from? They have to do something. So when we fix the social economic problem first, then the military will be able to actually tackle the rest of the problem. So the criminality that we're seeing today is the social economic problem that we're having that's been, I would say, 70% of them from the youth. And if we don't fix this one, then obviously all this criminality is we're going to see them all the time.
Well, the road users, especially those who move, freight from one place to the other, talking about, I think, is it NATO? Yeah, the national president, who raised this alarm, saying that it's affecting, the movement of goods and services from one place to the other, even the oil and diesel, which they have been transported to different places. So talk to us about the implication of these on price of goods and services, especially transport fare for ordinary commuters.
Yeah, it's a spillover. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you have to travel, you have punctured tires, you have your shock absorber being messed up, and all this adds up to costs. So obviously, if I'm moving my goods from point A to B, and it's going to cost me so much. Now, we're talking about the price of fuel, petrol and diesel. We're talking about the price of fixing my car when the roads are bad. We're talking about extra cost of security. When I have to move valuable goods from one point to the other, I need to hire police and to hire security to actually guard my goods from that point to another. Now, all these costs will spill over to the price of the goods and services. So, at the moment, we're having inflation, hyperinflation. Everything, if you look at it wrong, I mean, the country is going through a hardship now. Now, the reason for that is we have social economic problem, we have criminality, banditry, and all that. All this thing equates to cost, and all this cost has to spill over to all these goods and services. So we're going to have high prices of goods and services all the time.
Is the police well positioned? Is our current security architecture, well positioned to also combat this? Even when we have the good roads, we also need some form of security on the entire stretches of the expressways. But is our current security architecture poised enough to deal with this too?
Well, we can if we actually monitor and train our security architecture, security personnel properly, especially the police. The corruption of the police on our roads is unbearable and it's just embarrassing. Especially when you travel from point A to B, all those roadblocks that you see on the roads, when they stop you, obviously the first thing they're going to ask you is, what do you have for us? Now, if I'm being stopped, for example, I do ask my question, I do ask a question, I say, why are you stopping me? Tell me the reason why I'm being stopped. So they have an explanation. The next thing they're going to say is, okay, can I see your driver's license, your vehicle particulars? And if you give it to them, some of them are illiterate. I'm saying this unapologetically. They can't even rate what you have on those documents. They look at it, some of those people are expired documents. You look at it as if they're checking anything, they give it back to you. Then the next thing is, okay, what do you have for us? So if I understand the fact that if I'm perpetrating any criminality somewhere and in my car, and if I come across a police officer on the road, I can bribe my way out, it's easier for me to commit any crime I want to commit. Because I'm not putting a blanket on all the police forces, but majority of them are found with collecting bribes, tips on here, and they will demand it from you, plain ahead.
Unfortunately, it's not only the police that are on the road. We've got the VIO, we've got even Nigerian soldiers on the road, we've got FRC, etc. Are you saying the police stand out?
Okay. Let me come to the other guys. We have the what's the other one? The highway patrol. What are they called?
FRC, the road safety guys.
Road safety guys and the VIO. Now, there's a problem with these guys. I have this question that I've asked them severally. Why is it that the FRC guys only stop vehicles if you don't use a seatbelt? Is that the reason why you're being put on the roads? You have vehicles who have back tires. You have vehicles who doesn't have rear lights and back lights. You have vehicles who are on road unworthiness. Yeah. They don't stop them. So my question is, why are you on the roads? You have all these vehicles that put overloading stuffs on their car, and when they get there, they bribe those guys and they go on their way. You have some vehicles who just move, zigzag on the road, they can't be stable on the road, and you see all these vehicles, you can't stop them. But the only vehicle they stop are the ones actually if you don't put in a seatbelt. That is questionable. That's what the FRSA. Now, coming back to Lagos State, for example, the last man. Now, I'm not sure if anyone out there, I'm not going to throw the question to you guys as well. I've never seen the Lagos Traffic Management Authority dealing with all those public transporters. They don't obey traffic lights. When everybody stops at the traffic light, they find their way and they go through. So one day I stopped and I asked one last man, I said, right, are these guys above the law that you don't stop and they don't obey the traffic light? The guy says, sorry, sir. If we stop them, they have someone, a big guy somewhere, they're going to call, and they're going to ask us to leave them alone. So they have no control about it. So when you look at all those criminality that's been perpetrated on our roads, the functionality of those things are actually from those guys as well. They have their own regime, their own government, actually from the NURTW. They don't respect the rules and regulations of our roads. They drive indiscriminately. They stop on the roads. They just drop and pick up passengers anywhere. They drive with impunity. They damage all the cars, and you can't do nothing about it. But the worrying part of it is they are above the laws of the state when it comes to traffic and road regulations. So we need to look into that.
Right. And okay, so the question I asked earlier on about the police, narrowing it down to the police, because when you compare the police operations on the highways with that of the FRSC isn't armed, and before you get to see an army checkpoint, so to speak, on the expressway, you would have seen at least one police checkpoint. But in advocacies as this now that you have made so far, FRSC, for example, now those safety guys, would you also be advocating to make the highways safer, that they be armed, because they are not armed. They don't have, the rifles and the likes now to also maintain the peace on the highways in addition to their other mandates?
Unfortunately, we can't allow every agency,
patrol right,
to be armed. That's not safe for us. What I would suggest is a police officer or a security, an armed officer, maybe the NSC, they say, or a police officer, should be stationed with those guys when they are performing their duties. Unfortunately, we don't have enough police officers in the country, but obviously for the safety of the majority of road users in this country, when all those guys are performing their duties, especially the FRSC guys, the LASMA guys, the TRACE and everybody, there should be security officers that is armed to actually stay stationed in there, in case they need help or they want to call for help.
So that speaks to the collaboration, interagency collaboration. You see, the police collaboration.
It should be synergy between the roads, what's it called?
All these agencies who
with security forces.
But are you not worried when you see that the guys at the top, so to speak, they understand what interagency collaboration means, but when those who are supposed to be the foot soldiers do not understand, and then you see them in videos trending, brawling over, unreasonable issues.
Yeah.
So if those who are educated, the elitists among them, understand the essence of interagency collaboration, but those who are on the field do not understand this, what does this speak? What does this say about understanding the role that they are supposed to play?
Like rightly mentioned, we need to begin to get rid of the guy at the top. If I'm being given a position to work as the head of LASMA or FRSC, I should be given the autonomy to do my work effectively without any interference. But what we see here is most of these guys need help because their hands are tied, so to say. They can't really perform their duties and function effectively according to the rules and regulations of what that position is because they have somebody at the top, the political and big guys in there who influence their performance. So that goes across all these agencies.
Well, I bet to differ. I bet to differ in the sense that some people who take this job, when they get on the road, the first thing that comes to their mind, in fact, the motivating factor that gets them into the job in the first place is for them to make money because they feel as a policeman or as an FRSC guy, you can stop vehicle, cut corners, make some money. I'm not saying everyone, but do you not see that as a possible factor?
I say that
because they have been trained before being deployed.
That is corruption and corruption and corruption again. I find this. I'm not quite too sure how true is this. I mean, when policemen have been deployed on our roads or those agencies on our roads, they report. I heard that they report back to their bosses. They need to make money. I mean, some side money for their bosses.
It's a cartel.
It's a cartel. So they operate with impunity. Let me give you the story. I mean, I don't know if I have the time. Look, I went to a police station, I won't mention the name, in this Lagos, and to bail someone. And behind there, at the counter, it's written clearly in there,
bail is free.
Bail is free. Now, they now said to me, I need to pay XYZ of money before I could. And I said, look, well, it says the bail is free. I said, I'm going to make a report. The lady said to me openly, I said, you could go ahead and report me to this person because she was here before she was promoted and she taught us how to do this. So it doesn't make any difference. So it doesn't matter what you do. The laws and regulations are there, but the corruption has actually eaten deep into everybody's flesh in this country that they don't even care. And they work with impunity. Who are you going to report to? If you commit a crime and I'm your boss, you're going to report to me. I mean, if you report to me, obviously I've done that before I got promoted to where I am. I can't do anything. So that goes across all this issue we're talking about. Corruption is endemic into every fabric of this society.
People are also advocating stiffer penalties if and when these criminal elements are caught, if and when we have better interagency relationships, but then there will naturally be the turn or the time for arrests and prosecutions, obviously. But some have said for the issue of kidnappings now is life sentence, but people are complaining we don't get to see as many. We don't get to see as many prosecutions and convictions. And are these punishments on record even strong a deterrent to stem these crimes? What are your thoughts?
You and I are here about 6-7 years ago when kidnapping actually got to the peak in this country. And a couple of states, or a few states, actually made a law. They enacted a law that says every kidnapper goes, after you've been caught, it's not sentenced to life. I think is it death? I think it's
some states amended their laws.
I remember when Oshiomhole was the governor of Edo State. He signed it into law that every kidnapper should be sentenced to death. And some other states did the same thing, some life imprisonment. But the question is, since that law in the last 10 years, how many kidnappers has been arrested? We have the case of this guy, what's his name? Evans, the kidnapper. Up to today, who knows the fate of...
Still under trial.
On the trial, for how many years? Delayed justice is what they say was?
Justice denied.
They're not just denied.
Well,
so we have a lot of people like every kidnapper they've been caught in this country. There's no prosecution that we can actually put on paper what will actually happen to them. Yeah. So it's a money, it's a cash cow, and that's why it's actually growing every day.
Perhaps some of these governors are skeptical about signing the death. What is it called?
Death penalty. The death sentence. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
we do indeed. We get to see some hesitancy on the part of the governors, even when the courts have done their bit.
If you make a law and you can't enforce the law, what's the point? I mean, kidnapping now has become a big business in this country. Billions rolls over. They kidnap someone today, and some people are actually planning their own kidnapping so that they can make some money for themselves. So the point is, if the stiff penalty are not being enforced, it's not going to work. You can't make law as a government and not enforce that law. If we don't enforce the law, then it becomes irrelevant. So that is the reason why we're having all this criminality perpetrating and growing in this country. So we need to look into that. I mean, I don't know who has the political will to say, right, this is what the law says, and I'm going to follow it strictly. If we don't do that, we're not going anywhere in this country. We're just
well, maybe because people believe that maybe their hands are also not clean, so they're not sure whether to sign the death penalty or not. But then talking about bad roads, let me just read out an excerpt which the national president of NATO, as Alhaji Yusuf said. He said, theoretically, free market freight costs should be dictated by demand and supply dynamics, with rates negotiated between marketers and transporters. But then achieving these has proven difficult, despite our operational costs, particularly in forex and diesel skyrocketing to unsustainable levels, etc. Let me just jump to, because he's saying that with the issue of this bad road and all of the factors, it's supposed to, the price of PMS and diesel are supposed to be they're supposed to be expensive, looking at the global, global force. But then it's saying that the government is not listening to them. And the bad roads also is affecting their ability to supply, diesel to some of these places. What issue do you think this can generate, especially when it comes to having adequate supply of petrol across the nation?
Well, it's a demand and supply issue in here. It's a market force. Now, the price of petrol has been determined. We own the price of petrol, but it differs in various areas, states, and so on and so forth. But the NATO chief should actually state out what are the issues that he actually wants the government to actually tackle. We need to know that first. If it's
one of it is the bad roads we're talking about, because it's saying that apart from the global impact on the price of crude oil, the bad roads too are supposed to be factored into their pricing system.
Yeah. However, he's also optimistic that this year, during the course of the year, diesel will be cheaper, at least for them to reduce their overhead costs, in addition to the challenges they face in plying their trade.
Yeah, if we still import diesel, it can be cheaper, because we have to look at the landing cost. I mean, the higher the prices of the crude that goes in the international market, the higher the price comes in locally as well. Yeah. Talking about the roads, let's roll back about 30, 40 years. When we have trucks, this happens in other climes, especially in the developed countries. There's something they call weighbridge. I'm not sure if you heard about it. It's called weighbridge. Weighbridge is a mechanism that has been built on the road, especially on the motorways, like our own expressway. So every vehicle that actually passes through that road goes through that weighbridge. So they weigh what you have on your vehicle.
That's for the trucks.
On the trucks.
Right.
And you pay a fee. Okay? There's some everywhere in the country. They just been abandoned.
There's one very close to us here.
Here there's some that's they've all been abandoned. The reason for those weighbridge is to raise extra funding. You see, the government alone, especially our government in here, don't have enough funds to actually build a superb highway for the country. But what they can do is build a road. You could get a loan to build a road, but it needs to be tolled. When you toll road, you raise money. If we don't have a mechanism in place as a government to raise extra funds for our roads, tolling of our roads, weighbridge for trucks, to raise extra money.
Even the toll gates, we also used to have, toll gates on our expressways.
That's what I'm saying, the toll, yeah. But
I think the regime, the administration of Olusegun Obasanjo actually, dismantled all of this because they were not,
accountability.
Yeah, there was no accountability.
Corruption again. Even if you go through all the roads in Lagos that's been told, I think the MM2 is told as well. But the question is, where did those funds go to? Ask that question. I mean, from my understanding, what happened is they give a contract to a private person. You pay that money, you make your money from there. So it's a private business. And the reason why the past president, Olusegun Obasanjo, dismantled all those roads, because those monies were going back to the government coffers to repair our roads. So what we need to do technically is to toll our roads, put weighbridge in our roads for those trucks. Then it should be concession.
But would you still advocate, these fees being brought back if well monitored?
Of course. It happens in every other
But the timing, amidst the socio-economic challenges, the timing, do you think it will sit well with the people?
Look, there is no other way around. For you to have something fixed, no pain, no gain. You have to go through some series of pain before you have the gains. I mean, if we complain about our roads, you can't leave the roads alone for the government to fix. If you want the government to fix the road, you need to have to pay some fees to actually have some extra funds to fix the roads. That's what we need to do. And there must be some stringent measure in place that if you destroy any of the infrastructures on our road, you need to fix it. If you look at this burger, that bridge at Kara Burger there, you have accident happens there all the time, and all the truck, the brakes, I mean, the fencing on the bridge, they mess up the bridge, and they just leave and go. Who monitors all those? The government now has to come back and plunge in money into that. It's not tenable. There should be a stringent law in place that if you destroy or damage any of the public infrastructure, whoever does that should fix it. There should be a penalty in place to get it done. That's the only way we could actually have a good road in place. Yeah.
Michael Adeleye, they're speaking about a total overhaul, correction across board, not just government, but even the governed. Thanks a lot, Mr. Adeleye, for all your contributions on the program this morning. Quickly now, AFCON updates is next, and ahead of the Super Eagles quarterfinal match against Angola on Friday, first-choice goalkeeper Stanley Nwabali is back in training. The media manager of the Super Eagles, Babafemi Raji, earlier on Wednesday, speaking with the TVC News Sports crew, says the medical crew haven't confirmed that that Nwabali will be available for the match.
I wouldn't say if he will be available for selection on Friday against Angola, but the good thing is he's been working with the physios, walking during training, and also the physios are working on him to ensure he's in good shape, little touches with the ball and all those stuff. But we'll wait and see what happens.
Nwabali there. Friday is almost here, Ibrahim, but we know how very expectant Nigerians are against this quarterfinals, and we move past that stage. And this particular goalkeeper, Stanley Nwabali, is a critical member of the crew, and we indeed hope and wish him a speedy recovery.
That's right. I said that he's going to be back.
You saw the match, the last
definitely.
match.
He
impressive.
And then everyone was like, what's going to happen? Because the guy really knows how to keep the ball away from the goalpost. It's really very fantastic so far. And then our defense system too. Those guys, kudos to them. And I'm really looking forward to how it's going to be our next match. I hope that we're able to bring the trophy home, and that's the least I want to hear about this AFCON.
Absolutely, nothing but cheering news all the way, and Nigerians are united. Naturally, we all know the uniting force that football brings, especially on international platforms as this. So
apart from those who take their monies, because they'll be divided.
You're right. You're right. That's a different passion. That's a different passion. discussion and a different world, altogether. But yes, we will definitely be rooting for them and wish them all the best, moving beyond the quarterfinal stage and, yes, bringing home the trophy. That's how we wrap up the program, TVC Breakfast, this Thursday. And we must tell you that all the views and reactions of all our resource persons are theirs that have no connection with TVC News. From all of us here, thanks a lot for watching and hope you can join us again tomorrow for the Friday edition of TVC Breakfast. Up next is Your View with the ladies. Bye now and have a great day.